I have to warn you, this video is going to make some hand tool purists a little bit angry. But lately I've been using a drill press and a forstner bit to remove the waste between my dovetail pins. I know, you're supposed to chop that out with a mallet and a chisel, or cut most of it away with a coping saw, being careful to stay away from your line, of course. And if you like doing things that way, that's great. But let me show you what I think is an easier way. I've got my board lying face up because the sides of the pins are angled and I want to bore along the wider side so I can go straight down without cutting into the edge of the pin. I'm using a fence so the bit cuts right on my baseline, which was scribed so there's no tear out. I bore on two sides of the waist area first, leaving something in the middle to stick my bit center spur into for the rest of the job. I don't always take the time to nibble away these little bumps that are left behind, but sometimes I do. Now this doesn't mean I don't have to do any chisel work. It just makes my chisel work much faster and less nerve-wracking because I only have small bits of waste to trim away. I'm far less likely to bruise my pins or cut my baselines. Of course, some may argue that the extra setup at the drill press makes this method slower than the coping saw method. And you'd be right, if you only had one or two sets of dovetails to cut. But if you're doing a bunch of boxes or drawers, I think this method is better because it helps me get closer to my baseline than I would dare go with a coping saw. And too much waste left along that baseline would have to be nibbled back with extra chisel cuts. Otherwise, that waste would force your bevel backwards and across the line when you tried to chop it out all at once. So I believe the Forstner bit method, which removes most of that waste so I can trim it much quicker, is better, if for that reason alone. But do you know where it really pays off? With half-blind dovetails. Because I can use both a fence and a depth stop to cut away almost all of the waste, eliminating a ton of chisel work at the bench and helping ensure that the sides of the pins and all of the surface within the joint are nice and square. Try it, you'll see. And if you hand tool purists think this is cheating, I bet you could find some of these little Forstner bit dimples inside more than a few sets of 19th century drawer joints. Just grab a mallet and head to the antique store to investigate. For the last several years, I've been replacing my cheap drill and Forstner bits with quality bits from Fish Tools. They're a family-run company that still forges their bits the old-fashioned way. Try replacing your most used bits with Fish bits using the links in the notes below this video, and you'll see why I love them so much. Wait, don't go yet. If you're new here, please subscribe and remember to ring the bell. I would really appreciate that. Give us a thumbs up, or better yet, leave us a comment. I always read them. And be sure to check out the latest issue of Stumpy Nubs Woodworking Journal. It's always packed with tips, tricks, and tutorials designed to make you a better woodworker.